These people that are going around saying, oh, whenever you have a problem, that's really an opportunity. I want to throw up. I didn't have an opportunity. I had a problem. I got a financial crisis going on. So many people, when they think about private money, they think that I've got to go out and I got to beg and sell and persuade and chase. And that's not the way it works. One of the easiest ways to raise private money very quickly is with one question.
If you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Conner.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Jack Bosch Show, where we talk about all things real estate and finance. Today, we're going to actually do a mixture of both of them, because we're going to talk about private money, how to raise private money without ever selling anyone on private money. And my guest today is superstar of private money raising, Mr. Jay Conner. Jay, how are you today?
I'm fantastic, Jack, and I'm so excited to be here to talk about what I'm most passionate about, and that's private money, because private money has made a bigger difference in mine and Carol Joy's investing career than any other strategy.
Let's talk about the secret to success. Let's talk about what is the number one criteria. You're a successful entrepreneur for many, many years.
Right.
Before we started this recording here, we talked about you having a formula for success, and let's dive into that. Tell me a little bit about that.
Right. So one question that I get asked a lot, Jack, is, Jay, if there was just one attribute, there was just one personality characteristic about yourself that you would say has got the most to do with you being successful, achieving your goals. And the one word that comes to my mind is resiliency. Mm-hmm. So what do I mean by that? That means, not quitting, not giving up no matter what. And so I think back to 2009 when I was cut off from the banks. I lost my line of credit. My wife, Carol Joy, and I, we've been investing in single-family houses in eastern North Carolina since 2003. The first 6 years that we were doing it, I was relying on local banks to fund our deals, 2003 to 2009. And in 2009, I was sitting at my desk. I had 2 deals under contract, and all I knew to do back then was to just rely on local banks to fund my deals. I called up my banker. I had 2 houses under contract to buy, and I learned that I'd lost my line of credit. I said, Steve, what do you mean I've lost my line of credit? He said, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on? I said, no, but now I got a financial crisis because getting ready to lose over $100,000 in profit. And he says, well, we're not loaning money out to real estate investors anymore. So I hung up the phone and I sat there at my desk for a moment, and I thought to myself, and here's a writer downer. When you got a problem, what do? I asked myself, who can help me with my problem? By the way, Jack, these people that are going around saying, oh, whenever you have a problem, that's really an opportunity. I want to throw up. I didn't have an opportunity. I had a problem. I got a financial crisis going on. So I asked myself, who can help me with my problem? Well, I immediately thought of Jeff Blankenship in Greensboro, North Carolina, good friend of mine and Carol Joy's. He was investing in real estate. And so in answer to the question, who could help me with my problem, I called up Jeff. I told him what was going on. He said, welcome to the club. I said, what club? He said, the club of losing your line of credit at the bank. I said, well, how are you funding your deals? He said, have you heard of private money? I said, no. He said, have you heard of self-directed IRAs? I said, no. So I studied that, and I started teaching people that I already knew what private money was, and attracted over $2 million in 90 days. I don't say that to brag. I just say that as part of the story as to what happened. When you've got a problem and you want to be resilient, ask yourself, who can help you with the problem? So I have this formula that I actually learned from another Jack.
Okay.
And the Jack that I learned this formula from is Jack Canfield.
Okay. I know
the
Jack
co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series.
Right.
And so I learned from Jack Canfield this formula that will guarantee your outcome in life of whatever you want to experience. And here's the formula. The formula is E plus R equals O. Okay. The E stands for event. The R stands for your response to that event, and the O stands for outcome. Now, unfortunately, most people walking around live life with a different formula. The formula they're living is E equals O. The event equals the outcome. Whatever happens in your life, the event, whether you caused it or not, well, that determines your outcome, whatever happens in life. But the E plus R is very, very different. You see, you may not have had any control over an event happening. I didn't have any control over losing my line of credit at the bank.
Right.
That was a global situation.
But you
that
have
was
full
me.
control over the response.
Exactly.
To that, yes.
We have 100% choice, 100% control over how we want to respond and how we choose to respond to whatever that event was that happened. So what did I do? What was the event in my example? The event was I lose my line of credit at the bank. Not my fault, but it is my choice in the response. So how did I respond to losing my line of credit at the bank to change the outcome? How I responded was I looked for a better and a quicker way to fund my real estate deals. And as a result, since that time, and boy, was it a blessing in disguise, since that time in 2009, we've never missed out on a real estate deal for not having the funding.
Right. Now, with that said, it means that the problem became an opportunity.
It did. It did, but not in that moment of it
No,
happening.
of course not in that moment. In that moment, you want to throw everything at the wall. You
Exactly.
Want to
And
you want to go be frustrated and everything. Yeah, that makes total
that
sense.
event was the biggest blessing that Carol, Joy, and I have had in our real estate investing career. And so, yeah, that curse was turned into an opportunity.
And that's what often happens, but only, and now bringing it back to your resilience work, only if you have the resilience to not just fold.
Yeah. I mean, there were all kinds of choices. I could have quit.
Yeah.
I could have packed the bags
That's
and
what most
gone
people
home.
out there do. That's what a lot of people do. Is like, oh, well, that didn't work. I lost my line of credit. So what can I do? It's not my fault. Like, they took my line of credit. These bastards took my line of credit away. Now I'm stuck in here. I'm losing my earnest money deposit. I lose my reputation. I'm done. This is like crap.
Right.
No. Yes, that's an outcome. That's a choice, right? But those that ultimately succeed, it's like the key is like, those that ultimately succeed don't succeed because they don't have obstacles. It's because they don't have events happening. It's because of their response to their event. I mean, like I just released a few social media posts on Facebook where we talk about some of the things that happened. I remember, like, in my first live event that we ever did, we had 0 people show up. We sold 0 tickets.
0 people.
0 tickets sold. Because I didn't know how to sell tickets. So it's like, I got something amazing here, and put up a website, put up some things, tried to sell, no tickets sold.
Right.
So we still did it. We put up all our employees into our conference room, and I taught it to them, even though they, of course, knew it already. But it was like a test run. The second time we had 2 people, and they ended up fighting with each other. And so in the third one, we had 300 people.
Wow.
Right.
Well, and you know, how often do we think to ourselves, we wouldn't be here today, wherever we are, wherever you are, we wouldn't be where we are today unless we had gone through all the stuff that we've gone through, right? It's all that brought us here. And another thing from our good friend Jason Medley that I heard him say a couple of years ago.
Talked to him today.
Did you? Jason said, I'll never forget it, Jason said, what got you here will not get you there.
Right.
We can't keep doing exactly the same thing in order to grow and progress in our business and personally.
Right. No, 100%. Like, what the exact skill set that gets you from 0 to 100 or 500 or 1,000 or to 1,000,000 is the exact opposite skill set you need to grow from there.
So it was a different skill set that got 300 people at your event versus 0 and 2.
Exactly right. It's a different strategy. It was a different, a complete different thing. Instead of me trying it alone, I did a big product launch. And with a big product launch, I got the support of like 50 other people, and they sent out emails on my behalf. And we gave away, I think, a Rolex and stuff like that to those. So like whoever won it ended up getting a nice Rolex and nice thing, and laptops and stuff like that as prizes to incentivize them, and obviously commissions and so on. But because of that, then the name got out, and it was a successful product launch, and just many people weren't willing. We needed to go big, basically.
Right.
We needed to say, instead of like dabbling around with little things, we needed to go big. So,
What year was that?
Oh, that was 2008, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Sort of in my time frame of where I was waking up to private money.
Yeah.
Right.
And we that moment, actually, because everyone was losing their shirt and we realized that our stuff continued to work, that's when we said, like, well, there's lots of people losing their shirt. They need to learn this because this still works. Land flipping continued to work. But Emma, let's go back. Let's go into your main kind of thing. You talk about, okay, so now private money.
Yes.
Let's talk about private money. I mean, obviously, you're the expert in private money
Right.
lending or in private money raising. So tell me about, so it's 2008. You lost your line of credit. You had a moment of despair. You called a couple of people. So again, it's the who, not what, right?
That's right.
It's there's somebody always that have the right answer, and that's another distinguishing factor. Those who succeed, they have built up a network, and they're all sometimes also willing, or often willing, to pay for the network.
Yes.
Certain networks you just have to buy yourself into,
That's right.
right? And so now you have that. But did you know how to raise private money?
No. So back to that story, back to that event of being cut off from the banks. So I heard about private money from my good friend Jeff. And when I was talking to Jeff says, have you heard of private money, Jay? I said, no. And he says, well, have you heard of this guy down in Jacksonville, Florida, named Ron LeGrand? I said, no. Who's Ron LeGrand? And Jeff says, I don't know, but he says we can get a lot of private money. And I said, well, what is private money? And Jeff says, I don't know, but Ron says we can get a lot of it and private money will fund our deals. So that was my very first real estate investing
Wow.
seminar.
Uncle Ron.
Uncle Ron, Papa Ron.
Yeah.
That was the first real estate investing seminar I went to.
By the way, if you're interested in listening about Ron LeGrand, just go back to an earlier episode. We interviewed Ron LeGrand not too long ago.
Awesome. Ron is fantastic. Anyway, so that was my first real estate investing seminar. Went to Ron LeGrand's seminar to learn about private money. Learned a bunch of other stuff too. And so I learned what private money was, came back, and here is the differentiating factor, Jack. So many people, when they think about private money, they think that I've got to go out and I got to beg and sell and persuade and chase, and that's not the way it works. Did you know, Jack, that since I learned about private money, to this date, since 2009, I have yet to ask anybody for money. I've never asked anybody for money. I've never pitched a deal to get it funded. And people say, Jay, how do you have $8.5 million in private money lending that you just rotate from projects to projects and you haven't asked anybody for money? Well, it's real simple. I got right here my hat. This is my private money teacher hat. Now, Jack, I know I don't look as good in a baseball cap as you do, but my private money teacher cap is what I talk about. And what I did is I separated the activities of teaching people what private money is, people that we already have an association with, and having a deal for them to fund. So what I did is I came back home and I put together what I call my private lending program. Well, what's my private lending program? Well, my private lending program is the program that I offer to new private lenders as to how they can get high rates of return safely and securely, how they're secured, how it's conservative loans, and et cetera. So I teach the program, and once they tell me they like it, they've got X number of dollars to invest, or they maybe got some retirement funds that they want to invest. Well, I'll introduce them to the self-directed IRA company that I recommend. They'll move retirement funds over, et cetera. So I don't approach a deal in that first conversation, because if I do, you see, desperation's got a smell to it. Mm-hmm. And if I'm talking private money and I got a deal over here, I'm already sounding desperate, even if I don't try to sound desperate. So I teach my program to potential private lenders. Interestingly enough, Jack, as a side note, Carol Joy and I right now got 47 private lenders, individuals that are investing in our deals. Not one of them had ever heard of private money or private lending or self-directed IRAs until I put on my teacher hat and I started teaching them. So I teach the program. They tell me how much they've got to invest. And so then I'll come back And I don't pitch a deal. I've never pitched a deal in my life. I simply call them up with what I call the good news phone call. Well, what's the good news phone call? I call them up. Jack, let's say you're one of my new private lenders. I call you up. You answer the phone. I'll say, Jack, I've got fantastic news for you. I can now put your money to work. And I'll tell you 4 things about my deal. Now, if it's land, like you're an expert in, you're going to talk a little differently about the land. If it's a house, I'm going to talk differently. But like if it's a house, I'll say it's got a $200,000 after repaired value. It's in Newport. The funding required on this deal is $150,000. I know you got $150,000 because you already told me as to how much you want to put to work. And I'll say the closing's next Thursday, so you have to wire your funds by next Wednesday. And that's the end of the conversation. The reason there's no pitching involved in that deal is I'm not bringing you a deal to fund that doesn't already match the program that I taught you initially. Right. And so by separating the conversations of teaching the program to people that, all 47 of our private lenders, they never heard of private money before I taught them.
So
right?
let's jump into that. So there's a lot to unpack here. So because a couple of things is like, when you say you teach them the program, we're not talking about you give them a home study course. No, what we're talking about is basically you explain to them what you do.
Yeah.
That's just to clarify. So when in the world of like education and things like that, program often feels like they pay for a course or something like that. No. So you basically have conversations with people like, hey, hi, nice to meet you, Jay. So what do you do?
Right.
And then you're like, you say?
If you ask me what I do, I teach private lenders how to make a lot of money. And you don't have no idea what I just said.
What's a private lender?
What's a private lender? And so also a private lender is an individual just like you or me that loans their money out or retirement funds on real estate, backed by real estate, to get high rates of return safely and securely. That's a private lender.
Tell me more. How does that work? And that's how it goes, right?
Exactly.
And if they're blind to it, they'll just say, okay, that's cool, nice to meet you, and they walk off, and then there's no need to chase them anyway because if they don't get it, they don't get it, right? But if they get it, they're like, oh, yes, like let me hear about it. Yeah. So I remember, without knowing your program, I've gotten some investors for multifamily by simply being at a school function of my daughter and doing the same thing. It's like, well, what do you do? Well, like we put together investors and we buy apartment complexes and we bring them up, and our investors make 15 to 20% a year on their money, and they're like, 15 to 20% a year?
Right, you just got their attention.
What do I need to do to get 20%?
Right.
Well, what do you do? Like, well, I need to pick as accredited investors, non-accredited, so I got to vet them a little bit. But soon enough, also, it sounds like I'm not desperate, which I'm not.
Exactly.
They're now telling me all their financial things. And it's like, well, great. Well, I'll be happy to talk to you about more, but right now let's watch the show for the kids, okay? So, and then they're like, okay, this guy's like playing hard to get in a way, but really, bottom line is it's not that. I want to watch the show, but it's like let's exchange information, and then usually they call me. They're like, hey, how about that 15-20%? And so you're right. There's no sales pitch involved.
Exactly. The worst time to be raising money or attracting money is when you need it for a deal that's got a deadline to close within the next week, right? So again, there's no desperation. There's no chasing here. One thing that I'll hear from new real estate investors that are wanting to raise money is they'll say, Jay, I've got this fear of rejection. Now, they don't say it like that, but that's what they mean. They don't want to ask. They say, I just don't want to be rejected. And here's my answer to that. How can you be rejected if you're not asking anybody for anything? If you are teaching people an opportunity or showing them as how they can get a high rate of return, like you were just saying, the people you were talking to at your child's event there, you're having a casual conversation, and all you did was drop the seed, right?
Exactly right, yeah. So once you explain it to them, they tell you, yeah, okay, so while I have some money invest, so how do you close that back to know that they actually have $150K?
Right. So here's what's so interesting about that. So when I go through and I teach my private lending, we'll call it opportunity instead of program, right? So I'll teach, well, here's the rate of return you'll get. So I teach the rate of return regardless of the deals. I'll tell them how long the notes are. I'll show them how they can get their money back in case of an emergency. And that's called the 90-day call option. Just give me 90 days all I need is a week now. But if you need your money back in life and circumstances come up, so I'll go over the points. And then I'll say, that's all the points of the program. Is any of this need clarification? You got any questions? No or whatever. And then I just look at them.
Okay.
I don't have to ask. I don't have to do a trial close. I don't have to ask, when would you like to be putting your money to work? I mean, here's what I've learned after all these years, Jack. If somebody wants to hear from me how they can earn high rates of return safely and securely, number one, they're not going to listen to how I do that for them unless they've got investment capital to use. And
do you ask them okay, how much do you have to invest?
Well, they will ask me before it even starts. They'll say, well, what's your minimum? So you need to have an answer to that question. Well, my minimum is $50,000.
Right.
It costs me the same thing to pay my real estate attorney a closing cost on $50,000 as it does $20,000 or it does $1 million. It's all the same. So it's just not worth it for the deals.
No, absolutely.
Unless we've got at least $50,000, to start.
So that makes sense. So now you're basically going and they're telling yeah, I got 150. So in this case, when you say a 50 and they're like, okay, that's fine, but it still doesn't tell you if they have $1 million or if they have 150. So how do you get that out of them?
Right. So when I go through the program and they don't have any questions and they're obviously interested, I'll say, well, how much would you like to start with? Right. And I'll put your money to work for you as fast as I can. Then maybe at that point they'll say, well, I'll say 50. And I will say this. I'll say, however, I can put larger amounts of money to work quicker than I can smaller amounts, because obviously I'm not going to buy a house in my world for $50,000.
Right.
But I can use $50,000 for rehab.
Right.
By the way, Jack, I just had a thought come to mind that I got to share. Because any more of these days, Jack, if I don't say it while I got it, it's gone. So just 2 weeks ago, I paid off a small private lender, paid off $50,000 to a private lender. And of course, they never want the money back, because when it's paid off, they're not earning money on their money. So I paid off this private lender. And here's what I want to share. One of the easiest ways to raise private money very quickly is with one question. Now, this is with an existing private lender. So I paid off this private lender. I told them to expect the payoff check in the mail. And so I said to them, by the way, this check is coming to you. I'll probably be able to put your money back to work for you pretty quickly if you want me to. I said, but do you have any more you want to add to it now? There's the question. So if you want to, this is a writer downer.
Right.
So when you pay off a private lender, always ask when paying them off, would you like to add any more to it for the next deal? Now, they may come back and say, well, how much more are you going to be looking at? Well, if you've got a deal coming around that in my example here, well, I paid off 50. My next deal I knew was going to be $200,000. I said, well, the next deal coming around is $200,000. Would you like to put any with it? And I said, you don't have to. I got other private money, but I'll give you the first option. And she said, let me get back to you tomorrow morning. So she called me up the next morning. That $50,000 lender went to $170,000 because her mother had just passed away 2 months ago, and she had come into this inheritance. So the principle is, and the bottom line is, private lenders have always got more than they tell you.
Yes.
And so the perfect time to ask, would you like to put any more with your investment capital is when you pay them off.
That's right. When they have the ultimate trust building event, which is not the monthly payments or quarterly payments, but if there's any like that. But when they get their money back plus their return.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Very cool. So we got this solved. So hopefully if you're paying attention to this, now you got some wordings even that you could use. And now let's, how do you select 45? You have 45 people, 8.5 million. How many projects do you do usually at the same time?
Yeah, so right now we've got about 7 projects going on, 7 houses in different stages. Now, in this market, I'm flipping most of them. Now, over the years, we've sold a lot on rent to own, lease purchase, but most of them we're flipping and turning around. I mean, just went under contract on a house in our market, Eastern North Carolina, the after repaired value is $550,000. It's under contract right now for us to buy for $325,000.
Wow.
And the rehab is $51,000. The committee approved that deal pretty quickly. The point of my story is with this kind of market and the kind of margins that we're making, we're cashing out and we're flipping those. So our median price on our houses is $325,000 in our market, and again we'll have 6 or 7 going, at any given time. But Jack, I'm interested in hearing you. I mean, you're the land guy, right? Most of the real estate I do. I mean, I've done condominiums. I mean, you do multifamily. I mean, you're in all kinds of projects. But I mean, you're known for the land,
Right.
How about explain to your listeners why private money would work for them in the land business when they buy a lot on terms?
Well, first of all, a lot of our not all our listeners do land. Some of them just want to get a real estate education. But in the land, it definitely comes in handy when you get some of the larger deals, because most people don't need private money for a $5,000 deal,
right?
So plus we don't really do $5,000 deals. But if you have a $250,000 deal that you, let's say, get for $100,000, and you can wholesale it or resell it for $150,000 or so, then sometimes if the seller needs a quick closing, because usually we do wholesaling,
right?
We don't even buy the property; we just pass it on to the next guy. But it does happen that the buyers need that the sellers. The only condition they give it to you for 80 or 100 is that you close in like 3 weeks or so.
Right.
And so you do that, you agree to that, and in that case, you need some money.
Right.
And many people don't have, or most people don't have, or don't want to use their own $100,000 that they have in a bank.
Sure.
So private money can come in very handy there. Also can come in handy, obviously, on more development deals. Can come in particularly for the more advanced land flippers or land we call land flippers. If it's going to the entitlement process, into the development process, at that point of time, you sometimes, I mean, we got one of our students right now has a deal on a contract for I think $2.4 million.
Okay.
And that's a wholesale deal, but. Could they potentially take that deal and in that particular case, a student I don't think is at the level yet where they would take it down and develop it, but some of our students are. Some of our people making $800,000 a year, and if they come across a deal like that, they would take it down and partner with a developer and so on, and they would need to get their hands on some money, and private money in that case would actually certainly work.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I've got a lot of friends that do wholesale deals, and when when you're a new wholesaler, one thing that happens very, very quickly is like you get as a wholesaler, and of course you don't need private money to wholesale a deal, but what happens with the wholesaler is that third deal or fourth deal or fifth deal comes along, and they go, "Oh my lands! If I had the funding to stay in the deal, and it's like a big profit deal." They wouldn't assign it out for the assignment fee. They would stay in the deal. So that's another beautiful part about using private money when you're wholesaling is that you get to pick and choose which deals you want to stay in and which deals you want to go ahead and assign out.
Yeah. And one area that it makes land flipping a little bit more complicated, but if you get private money, particularly private money that's interested in being in it for a little longer, then you can get private money for self-financing deals. So in other words, we like to sell a lot with self-financing, meaning we'd stake a $200,000 deal. If we get it for 80, great. We can, two choices. You can wholesale it to somebody and for 120, make 40 grand, all good. Or you can also take it in and then sell it for 200 with about a $40,000 down payment and monthly payment. So the private money investor would get probably, well, the land flipper would probably get 20 grand, but 20 grand would be put back right to the investor. So they would get off their 80, they would get 20 back, but they're still out 60.
Right.
But since you sold it for 200 with a $40,000 down payment and let's say a monthly payment of $1,200, you could split that cash flow between the investor and the land flipper.
Right.
So now you can basically tell the investor, hey, we're going to do a amortization schedule, and dear private money lender, over the next 5 years, we're going to pay you all your money back. So the majority of the cash flow on the front end goes to the investor. But then once the investor is paid off, all the back end goes to the flipper.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the bottom line is
there's creative different ways to do this thing.
when you've got private money available, many more options open up to
Exactly
you
right.
for doing deals different ways and not missing out on deals.
Exactly right.
Jack, over the years, like yourself, we have reviewed thousands and thousands of property lead sheets. In today's market, there's hardly anything in the multiple listing service. Most of the deals we get are what we call off market, for sale by owners. And after reviewing thousands of property lead sheets, I've heard some real estate investors say, I don't need private money. I just want to do terms deals. I just want to buy on terms. And what I've discovered over these years is that only 13% of for sale by owners will sell to me creatively.
Yeah.
Right? Subject to the note, seller financing.
They want cash.
What do the other 87% require? The cash, right? And so, some people will say to me, they say, I don't need any private money. I just want to buy on terms. Well, that's a business decision if you only want 13% of the deals. But when you got the private money, you can, whether it's a house, whether it's land, whether it's a pretty house that doesn't need any rehab, when the seller requires, that's when you use private money. When do you use private money? When the seller requires all the cash or part of the cash.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, you can combine creative terms.
Yes, absolutely.
By subject to the existing note and use private money, like if they want some money over and beyond the payoff amount. So again, private money opens up the world.
Yeah, absolutely it does. Great. So tell us about, so you also teach this, right?
Absolutely.
You actually don't just teach it for your own benefit in the way that you teach people that ask you, what do you do? And you gain more private lenders from it. But you actually teach people, everyone, every everyday citizen, on how they can do what you do.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So one thing, I'm excited. I'll put this back, Patrick, here in a moment, but I want to show everybody. So my book is Where to Get the Money
Patrick's
Now.
our producer over here.
Yeah. Hey, Patrick. So my book, Where to Get the Money Now, subtitle, How and Where to Get All the Money for Your Real Estate Deals Without Relying on Hard Money Lenders or Traditional Lending. By the way, I got a lot of friends, and you do too, that are hard money lenders. I say get as many relationships as you can, right? But this book, by the way, you can't download it. This is, by the way, Jack, did you know the United States Postal Service is still in business?
Whoa.
So yeah, so you can buy this on Amazon for $20, or I'll give it to you for free, just cover shipping. I'll autograph it. I'll mail it to you priority mail. You get it in 3 days or less. And this will walk you through step by step on how I get all the private money I need and how you can get all the private money. So how do you get it for free? Go to www.jayconner, I'm an ER, not an OR, so JAYCONNER.com/book. So again, that's jayconner, JAYCONNER.com/book. I'll ship the book to you. In addition to that, Jack, I want to do something new for your audience. So I do a live private money event 3 times a year. It's called the Private Money Academy Conference.
Okay.
It's in Eastern North Carolina, so some of you have got to get on an airplane or drive a ways. But the Private Money Academy Conference, I do it 3 times a year. It's a $3,000 event, and I want to give your followers and your listeners the event for free with a $97 registration fee is all there is to it. So you can learn all about that event. You can get registered at jaysliveevent.com. That's JAYSLIVEEVENT.com, jaysliveevent.com. You can go there and read all about it. And at that URL I just gave out to your followers, Jack, they're not going to be paying the $3,000 fee. That gets them in for free with just a small registration fee.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, jayconner.com/book
Yep.
and jaysliveevent.com. All right. Make sure you check that out. And yeah, I loved it. Thank you very much for being here. I love the ease. I love the ease of the conversation flow that you have with your future financial investors. So guys, remember that you don't have to push anything on anyone.
No.
Like you simply, you need to practice a little bit what you say, so you don't get like, what do you do? I'm blushing. I don't know. So you gotta, in front of a mirror or something like that, you gotta practice it. If you're in real estate, you're looking for private lenders, then, or you can use some for your business, then practice what Jay just said. Rewind, watch the episode multiple times, go attend, get the book, attend the event. But most importantly is like practice it, because when somebody asks you, you want to say like, yeah, I'll help people I'll help private lenders make above average returns with loans backed by real estate. And then that sounded like Chinese to them, and they're going to be like, what does that mean?
Exactly.
If they're interested, because they heard a few key words, above average returns.
Yeah.
Like just like when I talked doing that kind of comedy show or something, and at the table it's just like, well, I put together investors and we buy apartment complexes, and at the end they make 15 to 20% per year returns. They're like 15 to 20%. That's the key thing they heard.
Yeah.
And everything else was like laser vision. Jack, I want to get to know better. How do I get 15 to 20% returns? What's going on here? And the rest then becomes just an education process.
Right.
And then he said like, well, I don't even have a deal right now, but I can put you on my investor list. How much do you think you could invest? Well, that much. Okay, great. When I have a deal, I'll let you know. And boom, that's how it just keeps
That's the
going.
key right there, is separating,
Yeah.
that you got a deal now, and, letting them know that, what you've got. And another thing that I've learned, Jack, over the years is whenever I feel like that I'm selling or I feel like I'm pushing, I back off.
Yeah.
Back off. Because, you don't want to be selling and like trying to talk anybody into anything. You're simply offering them a way to serve them. And that's what it's all about, is creating win-win scenarios.
Exactly right. With that said, thank you for being here.
Jack, thank you for having me all the way out here in your studio in Phoenix.
That's exactly right. I'm glad you were in town so we could do this in person instead of on Zoom.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming out here and to our studio in Phoenix. So with that said, guys, that's it. That's a wrap. Thank you for attending. As always, give us a 5-star review. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that recommend button. And with that said, see you in the next show. Thank you very much.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jconner.com/moneyguide. That's jconner.com/moneyguide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconner.com/moneyguide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with Jay Conner.